Did you know that in 2026, the UK passed a law that allows the government to seize your home for unpaid bills as low as £500? That's right. Just £500 in unpaid debt could be the reason you lose everything. Imagine working your whole life to build a home for your family, only for one missed payment to shatter it all. But here's the real kicker. This isn't just a what-if situation. It's happening right now to families across the UK. People are waking up to find their homes being taken away over something that seems so small. So, what does this mean for you? How will this law affect your life and the lives of those around you? Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll understand the shocking consequences of this law and why you should be worried if you haven't already prepared. Number 1. Family stability at risk. The impact of the UK's new law on home seizures is more than just a financial crisis. It's a threat to family stability. Imagine being a parent, working hard to provide a future for your children, only to have that future torn apart due to a £500 unpaid bill. The emotional stress of losing your home is not just a temporary setback. It affects every aspect of your family life. Families are at risk of being torn apart, as the emotional burden of eviction can be overwhelming. When a family loses their home, it's not just a matter of physical shelter. The emotional toll on the parents and children alike can be devastating. Research has shown that financial instability and the fear of eviction can lead to mental health issues such as anxiety and depression. Children, especially, are vulnerable to the trauma of home loss. Studies reveal that children from unstable homes face long-term emotional scars, affecting their academic performance, social relationships, and even their physical health. It's not just about a roof over their heads. It's about their sense of security, their well-being, and their future. Moreover, the law doesn't just impact the immediate household. Families living in multi-generational homes could also face significant disruptions. When homes are seized, families may need to separate to find temporary housing, leaving elderly relatives or young children in vulnerable positions. It's not just about one person losing a home. It's about the entire family unit being fractured, and the emotional consequences ripple through generations. We put a lot of effort into creating these videos, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on this shocking law. Have you or someone you know been impacted by unpaid bills? Drop a comment below and let's start a conversation. Don't forget to subscribe. It only takes one click, and it helps us bring you more important content like this. Number 2. Impact on children's education. When families lose their homes, the consequences extend far beyond financial hardship. The disruption to children's education is one of the most significant effects that's often overlooked. Stability is essential for young minds to thrive, but the constant stress of uncertainty can derail a child's academic journey. Studies show that children who experience homelessness or housing instability often struggle with concentration, behavioral issues, and a lack of motivation. This new law, which allows homes to be seized for debts as small as £500, directly threatens that stability. Children forced to move from one temporary housing situation to another face a disrupted educational experience. Research has found that frequent changes in schools, combined with the stress of being uprooted, make it difficult for children to maintain their academic performance. It can also harm their social development, as making new friends and adjusting to new environments becomes increasingly difficult. The emotional toll on children is often underestimated, but it has lasting effects that can impact their entire life trajectory, from high school graduation rates to career prospects. Moreover, the educational setback doesn't just end at school performance. Many children in such situations also face significant mental health struggles, which further affect their ability to succeed academically. Depression, anxiety, and behavioral problems are common among children who experience housing instability. This leaves them at a disadvantage compared to their peers who don't face such disruptions. The ripple effect of losing a home isn't limited to one generation. It can affect children's futures for years to come, perpetuating cycles of poverty and instability. This law isn't just about homes, it's about children's futures. How do you think instability affects a child's education in the long run? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you want to stay informed about how these changes are affecting families, make sure to subscribe. It's just one click, and you'll never miss an important update. Number 3. Mental and emotional health strain. The emotional and psychological impact of losing a home can be devastating. It's not just the stress of eviction, it's the mental health toll that families face when their stability is taken away. The fear of being uprooted, combined with the shame and helplessness of financial strain, creates a volatile emotional environment. Research has shown that stress from financial instability and home loss can lead to anxiety, depression, and even post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. For many, it's not just about finding another place to live, but dealing with the deep emotional scars left behind. For parents, the emotional strain is often overwhelming. The guilt of not being able to protect their family, combined with the constant pressure of trying to keep things together, can cause serious mental health breakdowns. Studies indicate that financial stress is one of the leading causes of marital issues and can lead to relationship breakdowns. Parents who face eviction may have to manage the emotional toll on their children as well, all while navigating the logistics of finding housing and managing debt. For children, the psychological impact can be even more severe. Disrupted routines and constant instability create anxiety, fear, and confusion. Children's brains are highly sensitive to environmental stress, and research shows that prolonged exposure to such instability can hinder healthy emotional and cognitive development. The consequences of these stresses can follow children throughout their entire lives, affecting their relationships, academic achievements, and even their ability to thrive as adults. The emotional impact of losing a home is far-reaching, and we want to hear your thoughts. How do you think financial instability and eviction affect mental health in the long run? Share your opinions in the comments below. If you're interested in more real-life stories and in-depth analysis, don't forget to subscribe. Just one click, and you'll stay up to date with the latest insights. Number 4. Family separation. One of the most heart-wrenching consequences of home seizures under this new law is the potential for family separation. Losing a home doesn't just affect the person named on the bills. It often causes a ripple effect through the entire family. When families are evicted or forced to sell their homes, they may need to temporarily separate to find alternative housing. This can result in parents being split from children or elderly relatives being moved to separate accommodations. For many families, this emotional separation can be as devastating as the financial loss itself. When families are forced to separate, the psychological consequences are often overlooked. Children may be sent to live with relatives, foster care, or in temporary housing, all of which can disrupt their sense of security. Separation from parents or siblings can leave long-lasting emotional scars, especially for younger children who struggle to understand why their family isn't together. In some cases, this emotional toll can lead to behavioral issues, depression, and anxiety. For parents, the stress of not being able to care for their children in the way they once could adds another layer of emotional hardship. Even for families who avoid complete separation, the temporary housing solutions available to them often fail to provide the necessary stability. Families might be forced to move from one temporary residence to another, making it impossible to rebuild a sense of normalcy. The lack of permanent housing can also strain relationships, leaving parents to manage not only their own emotional distress but also the pain of seeing their children and loved ones suffer. These disruptions affect the well-being of the entire family, creating a cycle of emotional instability that can take years to heal from. Family is everything, and the idea of separation can be devastating. How do you think this law will impact the ability of families to stay together? Share your thoughts below. If you want to stay informed and support families impacted by this law, don't forget to subscribe. It only takes one click, and you'll be part of the conversation. Number 5. Increased risk of homelessness. The new law allowing homes to be seized over unpaid debts as low as £500 is pushing families closer to the edge of homelessness. For many, losing a home isn't just a temporary setback. It's the start of a long-term struggle to find stable shelter. Once families are evicted, the chances of them finding permanent housing become significantly lower. With the current housing market already stretched to its limits and waiting lists for social housing growing longer, many families face an uncertain future living in overcrowded shelters, temporary accommodations, or even on the streets. The reality of eviction is that it creates a domino effect. Once a family loses their home, they often face mounting financial pressures from moving costs, storage fees, and legal expenses. At this point, survival becomes the focus, rather than recovery or rebuilding. Families who have been evicted are often left without enough support or resources to help them get back on their feet. This leaves them at greater risk of chronic homelessness, a situation that is not only devastating for the individual but harmful to society as a whole. Even worse, families who face homelessness are often at risk of becoming trapped in poverty. Without stable housing, it's harder to maintain a job, and children miss out on education and essential services. Research has shown that homelessness affects the mental health of both adults and children, creating a vicious cycle that's incredibly difficult to break. Homelessness doesn't just destroy families in the moment. It has long-term consequences that can extend for generations. This law, by pushing families into this dire situation, sets the stage for increased social and economic instability across the UK. Homelessness is a heartbreaking consequence of this law. How do you think the rising eviction rates will affect families trying to rebuild their lives? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to stay updated on how these changes are impacting real people, be sure to subscribe. Just one click and you'll be in the loop. Number 6. The financial strain on families. The financial strain that comes with losing a home is far greater than the immediate costs of eviction. When families are faced with the prospect of home seizure due to unpaid debts, the ripple effects go much further than just paying the bills. The law, which targets individuals with as little as £500 in unpaid debt, sets families up for an escalating cycle of debt, stress, and increased financial burden. Once their homes are taken away, families are hit with additional costs, such as moving expenses, storage fees for their belongings, and legal fees to fight the eviction. These unexpected expenses can push a family even deeper into financial hardship. Beyond these immediate costs, families also face long-term consequences. Without a stable home, it becomes increasingly difficult to maintain a steady income. Finding a new job or keeping an existing one can be nearly impossible without the stability of a permanent address. In fact, studies show that people without a permanent home are less likely to be employed and more likely to face long-term unemployment. This economic instability makes it harder for individuals to rebuild their finances and secure a future for themselves and their families. Moreover, once families lose their homes, they may become trapped in a debt cycle. If they are forced to rely on expensive loans or temporary housing solutions, they can end up in a worse financial situation than before. The added costs of finding housing, coupled with the pressure of unpaid debts, can lead to overwhelming stress. This financial spiral makes it nearly impossible to break free, perpetuating the cycle of poverty and further increasing the risk of homelessness. The financial impact of losing a home can be devastating, but what are your thoughts on how families will cope with these escalating costs? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe. It's just one click, and you'll be staying informed about the real consequences of this law. Number 7. Loss of personal property and sentimental items. When families face home seizures due to unpaid debts, the loss isn't limited to just the physical structure of the house. It's the irreplaceable personal belongings and sentimental items that make a house a home. Family photographs, heirlooms passed down through generations, children's toys, and keepsakes from important life events are often lost in the process. These items represent memories and emotional connections, and for many, they are impossible to replace. The pain of seeing these cherished possessions being taken away can leave lasting emotional scars, compounding the already difficult experience of losing a home. The law doesn't just disrupt physical security, it disrupts the emotional foundation of a family. Studies show that material loss, especially of sentimental items, can cause significant emotional trauma. For children, losing their belongings can be particularly devastating. Toys, books, and personal items often provide comfort and security, and when these are lost, it can create a sense of instability and anxiety. The emotional toll is just as real as the financial one, as families are forced to rebuild not just their material possessions, but their sense of identity and security. Moreover, The process of home seizure often leaves families with little opportunity to properly pack or save their belongings. Many families are given short notice, or the eviction is handled so quickly that they don't have time to safeguard important items. In the rush to gather necessities, things that can't be replaced may be discarded or lost. This adds another layer of stress and trauma to an already overwhelming situation, as families are left not only with the loss of their home, but with the grief of seeing their personal history and memories taken away. Losing personal belongings can be just as devastating as losing a home. What sentimental items do you think would be the hardest to part with in a situation like this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And remember to subscribe. One click is all it takes to stay informed about how these laws are impacting real families. Number 8. Difficulty rebuilding lives after eviction. Once a family loses their home, the challenges they face go far beyond finding a new place to live. Rebuilding a life after eviction is not just about securing a roof over your head. It's about overcoming the psychological, emotional, and practical obstacles that come with it. The stigma of eviction can follow individuals and families for years, making it harder to find new housing or even secure employment. Many landlords and employers view an eviction record as a red flag, assuming the tenant is unreliable or incapable of maintaining responsibility. This leads to discrimination, leaving families trapped in a cycle of rejection and uncertainty. Additionally, rebuilding a life means dealing with the financial fallout. For many families, eviction is just the beginning of a long and exhausting struggle to recover financially. Once homes are seized, the cost of starting over, from moving into temporary housing to buying new furniture and household items, can be overwhelming. In many cases, families find themselves sinking deeper into debt while trying to rebuild their lives. The emotional toll of starting from scratch is exhausting, and without adequate support, many find it nearly impossible to regain stability. Even with temporary housing, families face uncertainty about the future. Without a permanent home, there is little opportunity to plan ahead, establish new routines, or regain any sense of security. The constant stress of not knowing where you will be living next can leave families stuck in survival mode, unable to move forward or plan for the future. This creates a cycle that can take years to break, making it incredibly difficult for families to fully recover and thrive after eviction. Rebuilding your life after eviction seems nearly impossible for so many. What do you think makes it hardest for families to get back on their feet after losing their homes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe. Just one click, and you'll stay up to date with everything that impacts families and communities across the UK. Number 9. Worsening inequality. This new law, allowing the seizure of homes over unpaid debts as small as £500, is set to worsen inequality in the UK. Financial hardship doesn't affect everyone equally. Low-income families are the ones most at risk. Research has consistently shown that those already struggling to make ends meet are more likely to face legal actions for unpaid bills and, ultimately, the seizure of their homes. This law will disproportionately impact marginalized communities, creating a vicious cycle of poverty and inequality that becomes even harder to escape. For many, a £500 debt isn't a luxury they can afford to ignore, but it's an amount that sets the stage for potential homelessness and financial ruin. The rich, on the other hand, are less likely to face such extreme consequences. They have the means to pay off debts quickly, or they can simply rely on a cushion of savings or assets to avoid legal action. This creates a clear divide. While wealthy families maintain their security, low-income families lose everything over a seemingly small amount of debt. The wealth gap in the UK is already vast, and laws like this only serve to deepen the divide. As a result, families in financial distress are not just facing eviction. They are facing a future where climbing out of poverty becomes even more challenging. Furthermore, this law ignores the structural inequalities that already exist within society. The lack of affordable housing, the rising cost of living, and the scarcity of decent-paying jobs have all contributed to a situation where many people are living paycheck to paycheck. This new policy doesn't address the root causes of financial instability. It simply punishes those already at the bottom of the economic ladder, making it harder for them to ever break free from the cycle of poverty. Inequality is a growing issue, and this law only seems to make it worse. How do you think policies like this affect the rich and poor differently? Share your perspective in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. It's just one click, and you'll stay informed about how laws like this are impacting families and communities across the UK. Number 10. Increased public health concerns. The seizure of homes due to unpaid debts has far-reaching consequences beyond just financial and emotional strain. It also creates significant public health concerns. Studies show that individuals and families who face housing instability are more likely to experience poor health outcomes. When people lose their homes, they often have to move into overcrowded, substandard living conditions or even face homelessness, both of which expose them to higher risks of physical illness. Research has linked unstable living conditions to an increase in respiratory problems, infectious diseases, and chronic conditions like heart disease and hypertension. The stress of eviction and uncertainty only worsens these health issues. In addition to physical health, the mental health impact cannot be ignored. Anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, are common among individuals who face housing insecurity. The fear of not knowing where you will sleep at night, coupled with the emotional toll of losing everything, contributes to mental health struggles that can last long after the eviction process is over. According to the National Health Service, NHS, individuals who experience housing insecurity often see their mental health deteriorate, leading to a vicious cycle where poor mental health further hinders their ability to find stable housing or employment. This growing health crisis puts additional pressure on the public health system. As more families experience the fallout from home seizures, the demand for healthcare services, mental health support, and emergency housing will increase, placing a strain on resources that are already stretched thin. In the long term, this can have serious consequences for communities, as the overall health and well-being of the population are directly impacted by these policies. The health impacts of home loss are far-reaching and should not be overlooked. What do you think are the most critical health risks for families facing eviction? Share your thoughts below, and make sure to subscribe. It's just one click, and you'll get more vital insights into how this law is shaping the future of families across the UK. The introduction of this new law, which allows the UK government to seize homes for unpaid debts of just £500, marks a significant turning point in how financial instability is treated in the country. As we've seen, the effects of this law are far-reaching and deeply impactful, particularly for families already struggling to make ends meet. From mental health struggles and the separation of families to the long-term educational setbacks for children and the increased public health risks, it's clear that the consequences of this policy extend well beyond the financial realm. For many families, the loss of a home is not just about losing a physical structure. It's about losing their sense of security, their memories, and their future potential. The emotional, psychological, and practical challenges they face in the aftermath of eviction can be overwhelming and often result in a cycle of poverty that's hard to break. The law doesn't address the root causes of financial instability, such as the lack of affordable housing or decent-paying jobs. It merely punishes those who are already struggling. As the impact of this law continues to unfold, it's essential that we remain aware of the human toll it takes on families. These aren't just statistics or abstract concepts. These are real people facing life-altering changes. It's critical to think about how we can support those affected and push for more compassionate policies that address the root causes of housing instability rather than just penalizing those who are least able to recover. We've put a lot of effort into bringing you this information because it's crucial that we all understand the real-world consequences of these policies. How do you think this law will change the lives of families in the UK? Drop a comment below and let's get the conversation going. And don't forget to subscribe. It only takes one click, and your support means the world to us as we continue to create these videos.